Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. If you're watching this, you know that, as I said the last time I did this, Facebook Live, I couldn't get it to connect. So we are actually recording. So if you're watching this, you are watching the replay of this. And I am excited to have Crystal Richards, who is the founder of Mosaic Resource Group. She is a project management guru. I'm glad to have her here with us today. We're going to talk a little bit about project management and how to develop effective strategies around project management, particularly as it relates to virtual work environments. And so, of course, as we all know, for those of us that are fortunate to be able to continue working in these virtual times, we're still challenged in many ways in regards to how to make that work effectively and what kind of strategies we can put in place to make sure that productivity remains the same, people stay engaged and remain engaged, and we are also meeting client needs, client demands, and client deadlines. If you're joining for the first time or you're watching this for the first time, welcome. I'm Stephanie Lomax. I'm President and CEO, HR strategist for HR Pro for You, which is an HR consulting firm that helps small businesses to embrace HR. And again, I want to just do a quick intro for Crystal Richards, let her tell you more about her and about Mosaic Resource Group. So I will turn it over to you, Ms. Crystal.
Hey, thank you so much, Stephanie. And you
Absolutely.
got the makings of a project manager because you got a plan B. So you can't do it live, definitely, have it recorded for folks to access. So
Yeah.
I appreciate this opportunity to kind of share my perspective. I'm a talker. Anybody who's met me, that's why I do training. So I am the principal and owner of Mosaic Resource Group, which is a project management training and professional development organization. I work primarily in the healthcare space, and from time to time I'll have folks where they saw me in a speaking engagement or saw me at a networking event and they said, I know you do healthcare, but I like you. Why don't you come on over? And, if it fits well, there's a great energy. I certainly will do work with other industries. And my tagline, so for those of you that may know the Marcom strategist, Sharon, so she helped me with my one-liner, and I love it. I train people to be better project managers. And I love that because it tacks on the question that you always want to get from people. Tell me more.
What you do. Right. Yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah.
You go into the long soliloquy. Sometimes people are like, but just straight up, like, I train people to be better project managers. And I really do focus on saying training because that is my sweet spot. I love coming in, helping you, roll your sleeves up with you and help you on figuring out either the processes, the skills, or the tools that you need to better improve what you do. Because honestly, no matter what you do some type of project management, whether it's HR consulting, whether it is video design, interior decorating, there's some level of project management where you are from start to finish. And so I help you do that start to finish the most efficient and effective way possible.
Excellent. And that's a very key point I want people listening to understand, is that there's an aspect of project management in every industry. And every function to some degree that you're managing some type of project, small scale, large scale, in some kind of way. So that's really important, which means that a lot of these things we're talking about today are applicable across a wide range of individuals. So it's not just businesses, or it's not just people that have the title of project manager, but anybody that is responsible for carrying out a task or a project from start to finish. It doesn't matter what size that is. So that's really key. So let's talk about, while we're talking about project management, and it's something you said that it's you help them get from start to finish. So how does Mosaic Resource Group actually define project management, like the umbrella of project management? What does that mean to MRG?
So it is, you know, in short, it's getting that stuff done, getting the work done. I can't say, you know, what I want to say for stuff, but getting it done. That's right, getting that ish done. But be organized about it and have a process in place. So usually when people come to me, we're all over the place. So we start from square one. So it's usually never folks that are, well, it's two sides. So when people come to me, it is, I need to be better around organizing our work, you know, help me get the tools. So it's much more technical. Where I find a lot of folks who are, you know, that in that title project manager, where I really dig deeper and have a lot of fun is the soft side skills, the people skills, because you can have all this technical skill set, you can know all the tools to use, but if you're not able to communicate effectively with your client, if you're not able to communicate effectively with your team members, your 1099s, your business partners, that project is going to fail because we can't do it by ourselves. If we could, you know, bottle it up, clone yourself and sell it off to people, but you do need to rely on the expertise of others. And, you know, something I always tell people when I teach them project management to get certified, as a project manager, you're kind of the center of the universe. Like, you know, all the moving parts, but your knowledge is an inch deep and a mile wide. You know enough to ask, you should know enough to ask the right people who have the skill sets to do digger deeping into it. But your span of influence can certainly be wide, but your ability to do it all, it's just not possible.
Yeah.
There are people who are really skilled in the technical, really skilled in the contracting side, the legal side, and use those skill sets, but it takes diplomacy, finesse. You know, like we always said, it's not what you said, it was how you said it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had one mentee say to me, you know, I'm finding my role requires a lot of sweet talk. Yes, it does. So I get, you know, work with folks around that. I host a group coaching program once or twice a year. I'm going to start it up in the end of May. And what people have found when I put folks together in the group coaching program is that they're like, oh my God, I'm not the only one. Like, I'm going through the same thing. And, you know, I put them together, like I sit back and, you know, I'm like, yeah, what she says is awesome.
Right.
But it's really around helping people with technical, helping people with the leadership, because it does take leadership on our part as well. Even though we may not be high up on the totem pole, I am that leader for this initiative, and I have to lead, you know, among my team members and my peers, but there's also a lot of leading and managing up because sometimes, you know, executives get lost in the sauce as well.
Yeah, I love something that you said is probably going to stick with me for a long time, that as a project manager, your knowledge is an inch deep and a mile wide. I mean, that is so true. That's so true, especially business owners. Because, and especially if we're smaller, we're dealing with all of those things that we don't know much about, but are under our influence and under our decision-making hat. So we've got to be able to find the experts to contact that really know how to take the little bit of knowledge we know and make it into something that's for real, you know, that's in their area of expertise. So that's going to be in my head for a while.
Well, you bring up a really, really good point, because, you know, we probably have some business owners that are going to be listening to this.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have all of our titles, right? The janitor, the CEO, the janitor, the cook. And you need to make sure you add in space after all those other titles, project manager, because you've got to coordinate all of this stuff. And I'm sure, like, you get sick of the sticky notes, and there's only so much wall space in your, you know, home office for a whiteboard and stuff. You know, we got into business because we're really good at what we do, but now we have to do all this other stuff. And really consider, when, you know, you're at a point, when you've scaled at a point, that hire those people. And I always tell people, think about what your hourly rate is and how long it takes you to get it done, and what someone else can do it in half the time and a fraction of the cost. So I know when we first start, it's hard to let go. And I find that for a lot of people that work in the corporate space, when they get promoted up as project manager, they were the technical person and they have a hard time letting go.
Mm-hmm.
You're now in that leadership role. You're the project lead. You got to let that go and let those people who have that technical skill set do that work, so that you can manage the whole span and do what you do best.
Yeah. That's key. And it is difficult to kind of turn those things over in both scenarios for different reasons. But nonetheless, difficult. And it's something that you have to really, it's a mindset shift that you have to take. And, it's good to know that you're not the only one, that's got to deal with it. So finding like-minded people that have been in your shoes is also something that's really important. So that's why your network is really key as well. But, we could go on that all day. So let's talk about how you see the current state of project management. So we have gone from I'll say in quotes, a traditional project management model, if you could say, where there is a formula or a process that's typically followed for a project to get from point A to point B, or from A to Z, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that we are kind of thrust into this virtual scenario, how would you describe the state of project management in general?
So there's a couple thoughts on that. So first, from the traditional project management sense, it just kind of depends on the industry. So certainly like construction-based capital projects, the project manager is on site and still working some level of virtual environment. With IT software, you find it a lot more on a virtual perspective. So, I found it interesting you wanted to talk about it, because I was like, well, I mean, a lot of us work virtually anyway, but I will say that the relationship building is a lot more hard, a lot more challenging, and you have to be a lot more intentional. And I think everyone's finding out, everyone's thrust into this virtual space. You have to be very intentional about your connections, about your communications. I don't know about you, but I feel like my inbox is like 10 times more overwhelming, because nobody has the opportunity now to just stop in your office and say, hey, you got a quick minute. Things that could have been said in, it's an email, and it's so easy, right? Email, like, I sent you the email, right? And you think people got it. And there's a stat that came out a couple years ago, like the average US worker has 199 unread emails in their inbox. Mm-hmm. That was before COVID.
Right.
And there are email, I'm pretty good with like cleaning out my inbox, but it's been harder to get through things because it's the back and forth now that we could just, and people are so zoomed out. Like literally they're zoned out, but like also the Zoom, it's like, can we just have an unhappy hour? So getting on a quick Zoom call, it's like, just email me and I'll get around to it.
Yeah.
So that's one where the intentionality is going to be very much top of mind. The second piece to this virtual experience is that it's not the typical. So everyone's like, so we talked about this right before we got on.
Yeah.
There's the virtual where everyone else, my significant other, the kids are not in the house. I can drive to Panera Bread and have lunch. I can get my coffee. I can have a routine. Mm-hmm. I have a setup, like if I've requested remote work. There are people who have been, we've all been kind of forced in a situation now where I live in a 900 square foot apartment with my dog, the kids, my spouse, and work was my escape. Mm-hmm. And there are people who are like, I don't ever want to work from home because, and it's so intense now. So I think it's going to be a mixed bag. Now, people who have wanted it and have already had the setup, they might, hey, I've proven that I can do it.
Right.
But we're going to definitely have people who are like, no, I'm ready. Like, let me know. right? I want to go back to the office, and there's nothing wrong with that because also the separation of work and home, it's been very hard.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think time will tell. I think, maybe we can come back to this in like July or August when hopefully, God willing, things have settled down. What does it look like, and what have we learned from this in terms of the tools that we can use, the way that we communicate with each other, kind of our working agreements with each other? Because I would say it's probably crazy right now. Like emails that you get at night that, like, well, you're home, where else you got to be? And it's like, I'm still off the clock.
Right.
Like, I need a break.
Right.
Or, how dare you have an out of office message? Where are you going? And I'm like, I'm on break, like a mental health break. Like,
yeah.
So it's definitely something that time will tell with what it looks like, because it's just different.
Yeah.
I think there have been a lot of virtual project managers who they didn't have. So there's the statistic that 13.5% or virtual workers are 13.5% more productive. That's because I'm not interrupted with someone stopping by my office, the phone calls. But now, because there's such an intense need to have a Zoom call, to email pinging, everyone is on, and we want to make sure you don't miss it. FOMO is real. I would presume that productivity has gone down. And the fact that, honestly, a report that I read or an article that I read is that we're also dealing with grief. So it's just a different environment than the normal virtual working that folks are used to, because we are also dealing from a mental health aspect.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your thoughts are wandering, you're thinking about, you get a ping on your phone, some news report, the new cases, and that definitely leads to that loss in productivity. And sometimes you're just like, I'm done. And, I've seen it from two sides of people are like, they're getting work done. And then people are like, we just got behind. We had so many meetings. I'm spending my weekends. And that's something that, we have to also be mindful of too, because we might have as a backlash, people said, this job sucked anyway. You've proven that you don't care about me. So it is something to be seen. One final point. I told you that's why I like training.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's good stuff. And you talk about the whole weekend thing, because I did have a conversation. I was talking to Siobhan Smith, unrelated topic, and she was asking me, are you finding that you're working on the weekends? And I told her, I said, typically I try not to do, unless it's an emergency, there's something pressing going on, or I've got some other deadline that's going to keep me from meeting the deadline in the beginning of the week. I try not to do client work on the weekends. But I do work on the business on the weekends. Like I will find myself doing that kind of stuff, like getting stuff prepared for early in the week, or doing marketing or prepping marketing, or getting the plan ready for, what the week is going to hold, and that kind of stuff. Last weekend was the first weekend that I did none of it. I mean, I did none of it. I just, and you know what? I felt I was doing some minor home decoration stuff. Project management, like another and so I was doing things, but I found myself feeling at complete peace all weekend, this past weekend, even though we cooked a lot for the four of us. I mean, you have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. We cooked like we were cooking for people coming over, because that's what we're used to doing. So we were cooking, and it was cool, but it was the first weekend in the many, many, many weekends that I didn't really do any kind of planning or working on the weekend. And I didn't, for the first time, feel guilty about not having done something. So, I think all of us, whether we're business owners or we are working, in support of someone, that weekend thing is real, especially now, because we do feel compelled, because we had accessibility before to do it. Most of us did, but now there's an over looming expectation, because like you were saying, well, you're home, so like, what else are you doing? Well, there's a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, I can read a book, learn Spanish. Like, you are not my life.
So it's, I think that is a key point also, as we're talking about, mental health and occupying mental space that this situation has forced us to do. It's occupying mental space in our brain, and it can lead to decreased productivity in many ways, because it's very difficult. Not everybody can compartmentalize. So it's very challenging. I can see how it can be very challenging for folks to continue to remain productive with all those other things we talked about. The dog barking and the doorbell ringing because we're ordering everything from Amazon and the grocery stores. So it's, and the kids got to get their homework done and the schoolwork done. You're trying to like cram it. Sidebar. So my youngest son was working on a worksheet this morning, and he was getting upset because he was having to color the words, but then he had to, do the special sounds and circle the vowel, all that stuff, phonics work. And he's like, it's going to take all day. I just looked at him. I said, when you're in school, aren't you in school all day?
Right.
Yes. The more you sit here and complain about it, you're right. It will take you all day. So you're right. So we're going to get it done, and we're going to get it done. You can cry, but you're going to sit here longer. So,
It reminds me of this joke, this meme someone shared with me about school is closed for the rest of the year. My kid has been suspended and the teacher's been fired for drinking on the job.
I saw that. I got that on text. Oddly enough, of like the 13 or 14 of them that I saw, all the homeschooling ones were the ones I identified with the most. The rest of them were good, but those were like, yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, it is so different. I mean, even now when I think I want to do like a warm call with a client, I'm now sensitive, remembering the fact that they have little kids, and they might be in the middle of homeschooling. And just the fact that giving my kids FaceTime, even though they're big kids, I'm much more cognizant, because usually when they're at school, they come back, they're on the phone with their friends. But that gets old when you're all day long FaceTiming, and they're like, "Hey, can we talk?" And it's like, yeah. And having patience, not only with them, but definitely with myself.
Sure.
And you bring up a point about, kind of segueing it back to the virtual teams, the break times, that's something that even before this, breaks were important. People were really, really experienced with virtual team or virtual working conditions, taking breaks. I think there's this assumption that we're either sleeping or we're on it, right? And I had the audacity to put my schedule together last week, and I'm a time box person where I do 50-minute blocks.
Okay.
And I did 50 minutes, 10-minute break, 50 minutes, 10-minute break. That's ridiculous. Like I just had like a big hour and 15-minute break during lunch, and we ended up doing lunch walks, which was great.
Yeah.
But it didn't account for interruptions, because there's an interruption, hands down. And, my spouse is downstairs, he's got working space, but, we're here together, and I can't assume that, like you're in the office, I'm in the office. No, we need to, give each other some face time.
Yeah.
And so I didn't account for that we would just shoot the breeze, like what we're used to. It's like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm a machine. And it just was not realistic. And on Monday at 4:00, I looked at my calendar. I said, that's ridiculous. That's just, don't do that ever again, Crystal. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, set a goal. So just good project managers, you have a plan, and don't try to, plan, overwhelm yourself. If planning for the month is hard, plan for the week. If planning for the week is hard, plan for that day, and then break it up and be realistic. And I think a lot of times we think it's only going to take And I'm laughing because it's me who does it all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this will only take me 20
Oh,
minutes
I
to
do the
do.
same
It
thing.
took me 20 minutes to look at my file to find out where the draft was, like version
Yeah.
22.
Right.
So, you know, what I always tell people is if there's a task that you're putting on that you want to do in 20 minutes, stop and say to yourself, do I have all the resources? Do I know where it is? So there are days, and this is something that, you know, I taught one of your clients, and, you know, it sounds silly, but think about it the night before. I know I want to get the following things done. And if I know I want this done, do I already have the resources that I know exactly where to go?
Mm-hmm.
Because I tell you, when I go into a file and I'm like, good squirrel, and I'm looking at something else different, and now an hour has gone by, and I'm just like, you know, why did I get it done?
Yeah.
Just really be realistic about the time it takes to get stuff. Plan ahead. Um, you know, I just had a conversation earlier today with the group. If you can have some type of system, whether it is using Excel or using, you know, those cloud-based project management tools. I myself use Asana, and it took me 3 years to like use a tool. Like I teach people to use tools. Like, isn't
Yeah.
that how it is? Like
We
what you
know we're
do,
never
you
advice
never
givers, never
take your own professional advice.
right.
So I've been in business for 5 years, and 3 years into my business, I said, you know, maybe I should use a tool. And I love it because it reduces the amount of emails that I have to send to my 1099s, because it's a tool that they can get on without having to buy, you know, per user and all other stuff. So I think there's an opportunity during this time for
Mm-hmm.
people to say, you know, there's a lot of emails. What can we use to
Mm-hmm.
help kind of minimize and get us organized? Before
Yeah.
it was like run, 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 but now there's some level of downtime that maybe it's worthwhile looking into using a tool
Yeah.
for the organization. And just even as a business owner, you know, look into something that's going to help you with your task. If you're tired of the whiteboard doesn't travel with you when you're in a client meeting, but Asana, Trello, it travels with you on your phone, on your
Yeah.
tablet. It
Yeah.
may be worthwhile kind of making an investment in that. And they can
Yeah.
come, and you can get them for free.
Yeah, that's I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that I didn't think about talking about was the technology piece of project management. So we talked about Asana, Trello, Excel spreadsheet if you've got nothing else to use, which, you know, you can utilize to track the status of things too. What other types of project management tools do you think are good, effective tools to utilize for, you know, for project management? Because I don't even want to say specifically virtual, because we don't, you know, they need to be used regardless whether you're virtual or not. From an efficiency standpoint. So what other types of tools would you recommend, or do you know that are out there that are good for, you know, project management?
So I think at last count, there's like over, I don't know, there's definitely over 50 tools that are out there.
Wow. Okay.
I'm happy to share with your audience a link. Um, so I always tell people, start with why you want it. What do you needed to help you figure out?
Okay.
And then, is it managing a large scale? So like for one of your clients, I do, you know, construction projects. A project management full scale tool is valuable for them.
Mm-hmm.
But for maybe a single solopreneur, a task management tool. So that helps you narrow it down. So is it
Got it.
project management or is it task management? And the way to help you figure that out is if you want to organize your sticky notes, it's task management that you're trying to figure out. If you want to
Okay.
make sure that your 1099s, if you give them a task to do and you're tired of the email back and forth, it's task management that you want. But if you're trying to figure out, like, you know, the use of a crane and the crane operator and the capital dollars that are attached to that, that's where a full-scale project management tool like Microsoft Project,
Mm-hmm.
Smartsheet. So one of the large hospital systems here uses Smartsheet, which is more Excel-based.
Yeah.
And those have a little bit heftier price tag and a much steeper learning curve.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But with the task management tools, they are pretty intuitive, very colorful and fun, can be fun and quirky.
Yeah.
A lot of them have like a free usage at a certain amount of number of users.
Mm-hmm.
And even still with some of those tools, like if you create workspaces, and it's just understanding their languages, and they just try to be very, fancy with their words, workspaces or organizations. I mean, don't get caught up in that. It's just kind of their terminology.
Sure.
And then I would say it's mobile. I mean, if I can have it on my phone, my tablet, and my laptop, and it's something I can grab and go and look at, that's of value to you. And definitely integrate it with your email and your calendar.
Yeah.
So that those tasks that you put on that also is a reminder on your calendar. Because if you're like me, who lives by your calendar, if it ain't on my calendar, it's not happening. But when I see it there and I'm like, oh, that's on, it transferred over from Asana or whatever.
Yep.
So those are the things that, can help you figure out. It's very easy to get caught up in the Cadillac of softwares because you heard someone else have it.
Yeah.
But then you end up finding that you bought into it, whether, cash wise or just mentally wise, and you're not using it. I know we all have war stories about that, not only at a corporate level, but also as business owners. There are many software systems. I finally settled with a customer relationship management system. Of course, you hear about this new system that comes out, and it's like, you know what? I'm really skilled in this. It does what I need it to do. And I'm organized that way.
Yeah.
And just that one little feature may not be enough to make that hard switch.
To make that switch. Yeah. It's that shiny object chasing is a real thing. I know that firsthand. So yeah, once you've kind of mastered a good system, once you've mastered a system, it's good to stick with that particular system, unless you really you outgrow it,
Yeah.
Or something like that. But yeah, I think that's a good point. And thanks for those tools. And I think it'd be great if we could share that link of the resources with everybody, so they have a reference point to go to check out some comparisons. I think that'd be awesome.
And just to add to that, my husband, he's always got the smart aleck comments, but he's smart. Yeah. And he said to me, because I was like, oh my gosh, I think I want this new tool. And he's like, are you a software tester? Just help me figure that out. Are you a software tester? I'm like, fine. And he's right. I'm not getting paid to test all this software. I'm getting paid to deliver to my clients. Yeah. And if I can find a tool that will help me be organized, to keep on task, help my 1099s and business partners be on task, then that's the tool to go with.
Yeah, absolutely. So we touched on it a little bit earlier when we were talking about industries and the whole virtual shift. So some industries obviously have had a larger impact or feel a larger impact making the shift to being 100% virtual than others. IT probably does it a little easier because a lot of the tools they use are cloud-based or system-based, so they can do those things. But other industries are a little more challenged. So are you seeing a trend in any way with specific industries that are really being it more challenging to grasp onto the thrust into the virtual environment versus others outside of because I know you are specifically work with healthcare as your specialty area. And so that I think is an industry that could be challenged depending on what kind of healthcare they're doing. But what else are you seeing in terms of trends, or what are you hearing in terms of in industries that are being more impacted this way?
I don't know if I could specifically say it's industry. Is more of corporate culture or leadership feelings about it.
That makes sense.
So you can have two types of companies, same industry. One really believes in remote work, and others believe, no, I've got to be there and see what you do.
Right.
So even from a an internet provider space. So at one point Yahoo, right, was virtual, and then the CEO brought everybody in and said no more virtual workspace because we find people are isolated. And I'm sure the news kind of probably have the big sexy headline or oh my God, and there's other reasons why they brought them in. But it could go either or. I guess, like we talked about before, there are some people who just really don't want the virtual experience. I like having a routine. I like commuting. I like separating my home from my work because it allows me to have that hard break.
Mm-hmm.
Because and I'm like we said before, you were saying before, there are times when you might find yourself working and sneaking in like one more hour. And I'm guilty of that as well. Whereas I can have that hard break when my work is in the office. I have to log in when I'm stepping into that office and not here at home. So we've shown that it can be done. If it's really going to change that we have more people doing it, that's to be seen. Certainly there's a case for it. You reduce the carbon footprint.
Mm-hmm.
You can reduce your costs in the retail or real estate. But then there's a ripple effect of businesses that are in those business districts are no longer getting customers.
Right.
There's, certainly in the suburbs, and maybe that'll start building up the suburbs, I guess, of stuff instead of being a bedroom community. So where I live, it's very much a bedroom community. Over 80% of the people that live here in Bowie, they're going into DC. And it's, shops here, but we don't have like the shops like Tyson's Corner, because Tyson's Corner is very much everything. It's businesses, it's housing, it's metro station.
Right.
So those are kind of the things to look at. I just don't know if I have, it's just keeping watch on it.
Yeah. Because it's still so new.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like it's been an eternity, but it hasn't. But yeah, no, I hear you about just kind of keeping watch and seeing. And I think we were talking a little bit before we jumped on to the recording. We were saying that a lot of folks that felt like they couldn't do it, we weren't set up for that, or set up. They don't want to shut the doors, so it can be done, like you said. But I hear you also on the culture and what type of culture does the organization want to have, or do they have? And can they change that culture effectively enough to be able to manage people and projects personally when they've not really had to?
Yeah. And I'll be honest, like the virtual workers, that's a gift for you, right? Like we allowed you to do that, but we were always forgotten. Like the onus was on us to be intentional with the communications. Now, if the leaders are sitting in that seat, they're seeing how different it is, how just, the mindset shift. And I have to say, even when I was working full time for a company, there was a lot of pressure to really produce. So in that stat, what I talked about where, remote workers are 13.5% more productive, I would argue, and I can only speak from my experience, because I was doing a lot of extra to prove why I should work remotely. Or even though I went to the dry cleaner, I felt really guilty, so I'm working an extra hour. But that same time I went to the dry cleaners, my in-office folks are having 90-minute lunches, and they're still checking out at 5 o'clock. And they're done for the day, but I'm more productive because I did just a little bit extra, maybe 6 or 7, because I felt guilty about having ice cream with my daughter at the local Rita's.
Right.
So it's, yes, we don't have the interruptions like in-office people, but I will say that sometimes, I'm hearing from people, they're like, I'm working 8-10-hour days. And I'm like, that's not sustainable. Like nobody's working 8-10-hour days, even in the office. Like, unless you're doing, maybe construction projects, but even then there's requirements for, OSHA laws of people take breaks, and you definitely need to take a break. A lot of them, even if it's getting on, Words with Friends. My thing is, I love watching the flash mob videos, or guys are dancing and doing the proposals. Oh my gosh, that just makes me happy. Or Duolingo. I mean, I'm trying to brush up on my Spanish, and I've set it at 5-minute intervals, but and just taking time to just block time to check email. Like that was the other thing that was stressful when I didn't have a schedule. I'm constantly checking email, thinking I'm going to miss something. And I get it. I've worked with, Todd at a company. They're like, if we don't answer that email, the thing, the deal might go sour. And I'm like, why isn't anybody picking up the phone? Like,
Yeah.
if it's an emergency.
Sure.
But that's just me.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I just all that was good points. I mean, it's all been good points. But that's, yes, that slave to email thing is real. I'm so guilty of it. I remember something you posted, or I listened to. I can't remember if it was which one it was, but it was not that long ago. And you said that you were going to be intentional about not checking any emails before 9 o'clock. Like, you were going to get up, you're going to have your coffee, you're going to go for your walk, do all that kind of stuff. And then at 9 o'clock, you would check emails, find out what how to prioritize whatever was in that email slot that you checked, and then check it again before the end of the day. And then you had that block time where you could be productive and work on the deliverables and what have you. But the email thing is real, and it's more real now, as we also talked about earlier. And so is constant communication with Zoom calls or conference calls. And it is driven by being able to walk by somebody's office and say, hey, what do you think about this? Blah, blah, blah. It's a 7-minute conversation that now turns into a 30-minute conference call. Because while we're talking about that, we might as well talk about all this other stuff too.
Right.
So it's definitely challenging. It's definitely challenging. So the last question I wanted to ask was, what type of advice would you give to business owners specifically as they're looking to manage these virtual teams and this virtual work environment? Like, what are some key takeaways for business owners?
I'll start from a personal level. Try as much as you can to have a routine. And it just kind of hit me over the last couple of days. I had my routine that I would get up in the morning, I'd walk or try to do some type of exercise, and then I'm still in my gym clothes pre-COVID, and I'm still, banging it out. Now, after what's going on, because of the mental health strain that's put, how like your gym clothes or your pajamas are like I want to be on the couch and somebody please hug me. Like,
why are you talking about me, Crystal?
I'm not. Are you wearing your gym clothes? I can't see you. Everyone's buying their nice shirts, so I can't tell. But, you look great. But, I would say a routine, and that means like, and I saw from someone else, like if your usual commuting time was to get up at, yes, it's nice to sleep in. So I'm not saying like, getting up at 4:45 if that's what your routine is, but get up early enough so that you can have your wusa, that you can, whether it is reading scripture, whether it is reading poetry, writing poetry. I wouldn't advocate reading the newspaper. It's just never happy these days. But
not a lot of good space there. I hear you.
But that book you said, because honestly, when you're on the computer all day and then you're thinking, I'm going to read that book at night. I mean, that book is reading me. So that's when, maybe that's the time for you to, maybe the morning. But you start seeing that, okay, if I get into this routine, let me put, at least my favorite jeans on.
Sure.
Because what I have found is some of my clothes are snug. And that's going to be that's going to hit you in the face when it's time to like go to work. Because those yoga pants are very forgiving.
Yeah.
And it's actually boosted me, because before pre-COVID, I was in the groove, but because everything's kind of weighing on me, it has meant a lot more to me to actually get dressed. And, I haven't put on makeup since March 13th. I can't believe I remember that date. That was my virtual presentation I did. But I at least try to, even if I'm not going to be on a Zoom call, just try to boost myself up. So, even those of us who have been doing this for a while, everybody will say, I had a routine. I worked out, I got dressed, I said bye-bye to my family and went upstairs or where I went to. So I definitely want to encourage people to get into that mode.
Okay.
From a personal perspective, take breaks, have lunch, and shut it down. And it's even if it's a case of shutting it down at 4, and then getting back to it at 6:30 or whenever everyone's done with dinner and you've given the kids have taken a bath. Don't feel guilty about it. This is a time, no guilt, no apologies. Give yourself a lot of grace and be patient, not only with others, but with yourself.
Yeah, I love that.
So from the professional side of virtual teams and virtually managing your projects, I think it's the intentionality that I talked about before with communications, but asking people, if I have an emergency, what's the best way to connect with you? Do you want me to send you a text? Because I think we always took things for granted, but now I think it's helpful to ask and just set up those agreements with people. And like I said before, as much as you can use, consider maybe a tool might be a good time to start investigating, and maybe just try out 2 or 3. Set up something really easy, like a project that you want to do. And if it's easy enough for you to set up on one or the other, you're like, that's the one I want to use. If it's a hard haul and a setup, that it's like, just because those people are using it doesn't mean that it's right for you.
Sure.
And of course, people only post about the good stuff anyway. Like, I love this tool.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This has been great. So share with everybody how they can reach you if they're looking to, have training. And I will say this, Crystal has done training for one of my clients and has done an amazing job. Did 3 of them, and all the feedback was extraordinarily positive. So even if you don't think it's specifically around, because you have some courses that are outside of the project, I'm saying that in quotation, project management umbrella. You talk about communications, you talk about time management, which play a part in project management, but it's not a project management training per se. So if you have those things that you're looking to have a trainer to do, Crystal is well equipped to do that. But definitely let people know how they can reach you and where they can reach you.
Sure. So I'm on the major social media platforms. LinkedIn, that's probably the major place where you'll see me do a lot of posting. Instagram, Twitter, and they're all under the handle Crystal Mosaic RG. My website is mosaicrg.com, and you can reach me at crystal@mosaicrg.com. If anybody, just as an aside, if anybody is starting a business, my company's name is Mosaic Resource Group. But can you imagine when I had to spell it to people? MOS. I mean, it's just, so consider like a shortened version of your URL. So it was mosaicresourcegroup.com, and then spelling it was a pain. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to shorten it, mosaicrg.com.
Yeah.
And it's been wonders. And plus I have space on my business card. So.
Right. Yeah, it's got to be a 2-point font.
That's right. So, but yeah, email, connect with me on LinkedIn. Just a quick message, say, I saw you on Facebook. I've been getting a lot of, what people of this one cartoon I listed, spray and pray, where it's like, I'm going to just LinkedIn with you and hopefully you'll connect with me. And I'm like, I know a lot of people now. I'm good. But if it's from Facebook, just say, saw you on Facebook Live, I will definitely connect with you, and I'll follow up with let's talk for 20 minutes and get to know each other.
Excellent. All right. That sounds great. And we'll look for when we post it, or I'll start sharing this out once I get the video uploaded, etc. We'll share out that link with the resources for project management tools whenever you have that ready. So just shoot that over. And for you guys that are watching, thank you so very much for tuning in. We have more coming next week. I think we have 2 scheduled for next week, so stay tuned for that. But again, if you are looking for project management expertise, time management, and just a trainer that can talk with you and really customize the training to your needs, Crystal is definitely an awesome resource to do that. If you're looking for assistance as it relates to HR related matters, both COVID and non-COVID, although I know it's kind of like taking on its life of its own here, please make sure you reach out to me. You can follow me on this page where it's posted. The other videos of the Facebook Lives and recordings are on YouTube, as well as on the Facebook page, and certainly follow me on LinkedIn and Instagram as well, HR Pro, the number 4, YOU. Thank you so very much, and we will chat again soon.